Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you're watching this transmission. I am getting eaten alive here by mosquitoes. 'Tis I, Mike Martins, your housing discussion guru, and broadcasting out of Merritt, British Columbia. I need to make an emergency transmission, guys. Very emergency transmission, because the poop is hitting the wall. I know we have trends in the housing market tomorrow. We'll have Mario DeSettis on the show. He'll be calling in tomorrow. To give us a briefing on what's happening, boots on the ground there in Ontario, Canada. But we got a lot of poop hitting the fan right now, and it's not looking good. So stay tuned, guys, to this show. And if you're just tuning in, or you're going to be tuning in the middle of the show, scroll back to the beginning, because this is a really good one. We got ourselves a bit of a pickle right here. So this is getting a lot of views. Fear of paying too much is hitting Australia. Housing crisis. Watch this. No one's buying right now in Australia. Australian proper isn't buying, even though prices are declining. People aren't touching anything. Why? Because of fear of paying too much. Now, a very important article. I got several important articles that are on the wire today. One of them is about 2 weeks old, but I need to read it because now it's actually coming to fruition as of today. Canadian HELOC debt hits new high as spending binge continues. Guys, this is not a good thing. This is from today, from the Better Dwelling. Canadian real estate owners made a record gain when prices soared, and they're in a rush to spend it. Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institution, OSFI, filings show a balance of loans secured by residential real estate hitting new high in May. This is a big problem, guys. The high was led to the surge of personal loans such as HELOCs. HELOCs are second mortgages, okay, if you're watching this in the United States of America. And if you're watching this in Australia, they're just second mortgages, okay? Loans secured by residential real estate. So what happens is, if you sell your property, okay, your first FMAR, it's an FMAR, it's called FMAR. Your first mortgage and the lending terms is called an FMAR, FMAR. And then you have to pay your second mortgage off. It's a 2MAR, and the third MAR, if there's a third MAR, if there's a third lien on the house, right? So your FMAR is always principal that gets paid by trustees if you file for bankruptcy. That always gets covered first. Then your second mortgage, and then whatever the credit cards could sue you for, or whatever they could get off you. You know what I'm saying? Is the third. That gets the pick of the pie, right? Loans secured by residential real estate. Loans secured by residential real estate is popular form of debt for Canadians. There's tons of different types, with the most frequent type being a home equity line of credit, HELOC. All of the loans work the same way, allowing you to access equity in your home by borrowing against it. So your LTV, your loan to value, goes up. And when your loan to value goes up, basically any equity you've built in there is kaput, gone. When home prices rise quickly, it's sometimes viewed as a quick way to realize those profits. So paper wealth, right, guys? Debt is debt. But not all debt is a negative indicator. Regulators split these types of loans into personal and business as a result. Personal loans secured by residential real estate are typically for consumption. They are important part of Canada retail sales, but generally they're not as great. Business loans secured by real estate is generally calculated risk, so it's not as bad. Borrowing for personal consumption leaves questions about how they will pay back the debt. Business borrowing implies confidence in the market conditions to expand their business. That's why they're separated. So business, you're hiring people, you're getting a home business off the ground. And Buddy's in the comments. GE is in the comments. Thanks for joining us for this emergency transmission, guys. This is pretty bad, so let me keep reading this. Total debt secured by residential real estate hit an all-time high. Filings show $284.8 billion in outstanding debt secured by residential real estate. The annual pace of growth increased 5.44%, which is actually higher than last month. And I read the same article last month. At the same article, I read an article like this. Following 5 months of annual growth decelerating, we've got our first bump higher. Total loans secured with residential real estate. Look at this, people. Holy smokes. That's in the billions. 280, what is it? $284 billion. Personal debt secured by real estate now sits at over $256 billion. Yeah, guys have no idea how bad this is. Trevor Maynard's in the comments from Victoria. How you doing, bud? Personal debt secured by real estate now hits over $256 billion. The vast majority of debt was for proposal consumption, over $256.8 billion. The total was for non-business purposes, 6.22% from last year. The borrowing binge did reach new highs, and the annual growth did taper for a third month in a row. Personal loans secured with real estate. Look at that, people. $256 billion. Business debt secured by real estate declines, rises. Loans secured for business purposes were below highs, but did jump for the month before. The outstanding balance stood at $28.04 billion. In May, down 1.16% from last year. This is the second month we've seen negative growth, but the size of declines tapered. It's too early to tell which way the trend is heading. So these are business loans, guys. These are the loans we want people to take, because then they'll take these loans and open a business and probably hire you, or probably expand their business, or probably, you know, poop the scoop and move to Costa Rica. We don't know that, right? But that's the ones you want people to take, but they're not taking them as much. Business loans secured with residential real estate. So there it is. Tapering. The rise of HELOC debt itself is relatively harmless on the surface. There's not much harm over the next few extra dollars going towards debt servicing right now. What they're using the debt for is a concern. That's what I'm trying to say. Increasingly, debt experts have been seeing HELOCs used to delay personal bankruptcies, and banks have been urging people to use them to buy additional homes. Oh, God. This works as long as prices continue to rise. That's the key factor. You know what the key word is? Rise in that sentence. And the support word, continue. And the adjective is prices. But I don't even know what I'm saying. But I'm saying rise. That's the key word. And the support word is continue. So if they don't continue to rise, guess what happens? The second and third home you buy, you know, but can amplify the shock even as home prices. Okay, so this is a big deal, guys. This is an emergency transmission, guys. I really need to get this out there. So we got Frosty in the comments saying 1-bedrooms in San Francisco Bay Area are starting at $500 large. So 1-bedroom condos, that is, guys. So $500 large for 700 square foot, and I'm being generous with the square footage. I don't even know what you're paying per square foot. I don't even want to go there. I don't even want to go there because it's yeah, I'm not even going to go there. So let's move on, guys. So Canadians are facing this problem, and New Zealand is right now at epic proportions. The amount of equity borrowers have in their homes has increased significantly, so the LVRs were introduced. Loan-to-value ratio is what we have in Canada, is like LTV, loan-to-value. They have loan-value ratio, which was just put in as a measure. I don't understand how New Zealand put this in so late in their financing scheme or financing prerequisite when they're checking people's qualifications when they're taking out these mortgages. People taking out mortgages to buy a home have become less vulnerable to the effects of housing market bust. Higher interest rates and loss of income since the introduction of loan-to-valuation ratio lending restrictions, according to the Study Reserve Bank. The report found that the prior introduction of LVRs in October 2013, the average new mortgage was 67% of the property's value, but mid-2016, the LVR has fallen to 55%. That excludes lending investors, including lending first home buyers and moving up the property ladder. Over the same period, the amount of money provided to home buyers the amount borrowed was above 80% of the property's value, declined from more than 80% of new mortgage lending to 35%. This suggests that substantial increase in the average equity buffers, driven by widening gap between median mortgage debt and median house price, the report said. This had benefits for both borrowers and the banks that were lending them the money, it said. Prior to the introduction LVRs, the Reserve Bank was concerned about the risks faced by the banks if there was a sharp downturn in correction in house prices, a decline in household income, or increase in interest rates. There was a possibility of the high LVRs could magnify the extent of the house price boom and any bust which followed. An increase in interest rates for highly leveraged households or decline in their incomes makes it harder for them to service their mortgages and leaves less income available for consumption, food, the report said. Highly stressed mortgagors might choose to sell their house and repay their debts, which pushes house prices down further and lowers the perceived wealth of the homeowners. Such scenarios can have a large impact on the economy as a whole, the report said. However, the increased levels of equity that people had in their homes were introduced should have reduced those risks. Households with lower equity buffers have more limited safety against variety of risks. So if the market goes down, let's say 5-10%, which they are going right now in New Zealand, that little buffer of that loan to value that you had in there is gone once the value drops. And then now you're going to be selling the house for less than what you bought it for to pay your debt, to pay your debtors off. So you're in a lot of hot water here. In the event of a decline in income or increase in interest rates, households with lower LVRs have higher flexibility to restructure or refinance their mortgages. Households with lower LVRs are more likely to maintain positive equity in the event of a decline in a house. This damn mosquito is in here. Event of decline of the house prices. However, the report also noted that introduction of LVRs probably wasn't the only reason for the increase in the borrower's equity. So the borrowers are borrowing in their equity. Rising property values would likely have increased the average of equity of movers. Even the LVR policy was not in place, he said. So, again, people are borrowing more than they should be. They put this into place. A buffer. I don't know if you want to call it a buffer. I don't know if you want to call it a buffer. I don't know if you want to call it an aggregation against what is going on. An aggregation. So when prices do dip, you have that sort of aggregate that's kind of in your favor to help buffer anything. But now people are borrowing against it and making it a lot harder for the consumers. Happy, but it's a short-term happiness. So New Zealand underwater right now as prices start declining across the board. Auckland seeing declines of anywhere from 2.6 to 3%, depending. Woo! This Merrick girl won't let you be bored. I get these pop-ups all the time. Anyways, how Australians' banks became the world's biggest property addict. Australia is riding out a huge gamble on property. The bet, 27 years of recession-free economic growth during which Sydney home prices surged fivefold, will continue to unbatten and allow borrowers to keep servicing their debt. The gamble has turned dicey. Tighter lending rules deterring investors and lofty prices are starting to deflate, and banking probe is exposing dodgy practices, and a mountain of risky loans that help fuel the bubble needs refinancing just as global borrowing costs rise. Now Australians are stuck with the highest household debt levels among the G20 nations. Look at Australia's household debt. Wow, South Korea is there, UK, US. How come? So Canada's right after. So Canada, Australia is right there. Where does South Korea come from? Where did I know it's Americanized? I know South Korea is Americanized and North Korea is Russianized. Oh my god! It's a walking journey in the comments. Sorry guys, I'm really thirsty. Oh god, I'm so thirsty. Oh yeah, guys, I'm wearing this jacket, this really nice Holt Renfrew jacket, and the reason why I'm wearing this jacket is to give you guys this illusion that I am a respectable person in the community. I didn't go as far as wear a tie, because then it'll be more presidential, and I'd probably try and sell you a used car. But I want to look like someone of importance. Oh, Vancouver real estate's in the comments. Keep drinking the Kool-Aid, Mike. Yep. And Australian household exceeds 120% GDP. So this is really bad here in Australia. Canada's just right behind. I don't know where South Korea came from. I have no idea where South Korea came from in this. The UK, we see that. The US, we see that. Raising interest rates. And UK's been on decline for the last 16 months. France and Germany are way down there, but still, I know France household debt's been out of control a bit, but they got that somewhat under control by, what do they do in France? They did something very, very recently. Historically, we've seen that after economies have run up leverage, they faced a hangover, said Daniel Blake, economist, Morgan Stanley in Sydney. He cites Bank of International Settlements research showing that household debt starts dragging on future economic growth once the equivalent of 80% of gross domestic product. Australia is sitting well in the extremes of the range above 120%. While Australia's banks remain well capitalized and are still churning out massive profits, the millions of customers backing their biggest assets aren't. And this is the key right here. Wage growth is elusive and indebted workers struggle to cling to their jobs. And consumption, which makes up more than half of the economy, is pressured as households scrimp to meet mortgage payments. There's the GDP in Australia. There's the banks. So a lot of its GDP is being made up through Ponzi ways. It's not exports. It's not fabrication. It's not job growth. I mean, unless Australia could create 400,000 extremely well-paying jobs in the private sector, we're not talking about public sector because anyone could work for the government. Private sector jobs that could be taxed, then you can start seeing changes in the markets and some sort of an aggregation chewing back on any losses that Australia has been getting in the housing sector right now. Since the turn of the century, politics down under have sold the Australian dream by encouraging locals to take out mortgages, secure stakes in the property market traditionally seen as an easy path to wealth. When growth stumbled during the global financial crisis, the government started handing out checks to help buyers scrounge up deposits, bolstering the economy in the process. As the mining investment bonanza to feed China's demand for commodities started to splutter from 2012, the central bank rode to the rescue, cutting interest rates to record lows. So remember what happened in Perth with the mining disaster? Mining just in the pits. Mining in the pits in Australia. So the central banks rode to the rescue, and then that's when they started using people's pensions and people's, basically the working poor tax money went in there to stimulate the economy in Australia in 2012, if anybody remembers that. But who remembers anything? No one learns from their mistake. The exuberance got out of hand. Investors gorged the interest-only loans that required them to repay not even 1 cent of principal for up to 5 years. The frenzy, such as loans, peaked in 2015 when they accounted for 46% of all new mortgages. That is not good, people. 46% of new mortgages. Now it's time for those borrowers to start paying up, about $360 billion. And what is Canada's second mortgage at? Sorry, I mean, these are like numbers I don't use every day. Canada is at $284 billion. So, pretty close, eh? $360 billion. That's $266 billion US. Remember, the Australian dollar is on par with the Canadian. I mean, 1 or 2 cents, give or take. Of those loans reverting to interest principal payments over the next 3 years, just the global borrowing costs are set to increase. So global borrowing, guys, will be going up soon. The Reserve Bank of Australia isn't yet pressing the panic button. Oh, they should have pressed the panic button 2 years ago, but what do I know, right? Its research suggests the damage from loan rollovers should be minimal. Still, the household debt pile, currently at 189% of disposable income, has required it to tread warily. The RBA has kept interest rates unchanged since August 2016, the longest stretch in modern history. They might be raising interest rates in Australia in November, guys, so let's keep on the pulse with that. November, December, they're looking at something. They need to raise rates to get the they gotta hedge inflation. unless the Australian government just starts buying gold like crazy and putting it into its reserves, I don't think the Australian government will ever do that. I don't see them doing that. I see them selling their gold reserves to pay down their debt. I don't see the Australian government hedging against inflation and filling up reserves with like 5,000-6,000 tons of gold, right? So for immigration from Russia, 47-year-old mother of 3. Okay, this is a story. Okay, how investors' repayment could almost double. So guys, so this is the rate hikes they're looking at here from 2019. So this is the one from 2014 to 2019. So look at the 2019 one right here, 3,100. And so, Canadians in the thing, looking fancy, guys. I want to look like a very, my camera's got to focus here. I want to look like a respectable person in the community. So I'm not wearing any just cheap polyester rag. I pulled out my old Holt Renfrew jacket. Beautiful. It smells so minty. Which I purchased a few years back. Fits perfect, like nice and snug. It even has metal buttons, so you guys could believe me, so I could look like a real, respectable used car salesman. But no, I'm wearing this today. I want to look spiffy for you guys today. And anyway, so look at here, the rate hikes here. So Australia hasn't had a rate hike yet. So if they go ahead and do it, which they should, because there's no other way, like I said, they need to either buy a pile of gold, which Russia and China are doing. Heck, even Portugal and Germany are buying gold. They need to find something out. They need to hedge against inflation. So the only thing they could do is by raising interest rates. That's it. And the domino effect's going to start. I always said the housing will start in Australia. The crash will start in Australia. It's going to move up to New Zealand, but I think New Zealand's ahead of Australia right now in fear of paying too much. FOP2M, whatever, fear of paying too much right now in Australia is going crazy, and I made a video about it here. FOPTM is hitting Australia, housing crisis. So in the Australian shores, basically, a lot of people from Australia commenting here. Lots of Australia people from Melbourne commenting here and saying, yes, it is happening, Mike. And there's my man Ann on there. Let me love his comment there. Yeah. So there it is. Lots of people from Australia commenting on that video saying, yes, Mike, it is here. Fear of paying too much in Australia. And Canadian, if you're just joining us, Canadian loans out of going out of control, second mortgages, guys. So with the blended rates they're paying with their first mortgages and their second mortgages, you're paying a blended rate. So that leaves you. It's not a revolving debt because it's a term. So you're on a 30-year amortization of a 4-year term, 5-year term. But the problem is you're still paying a blended rate because you're paying a second mortgage and you're paying them together. So the comments are rolling here, guys. What we got going on? Kevin Tavares, my boy down in Montreal, saying, looking good, brother. Thanks. Shane Carwin says, recession coming with 4 hikes. Oh, yeah. Australia's in so much trouble right now. They're still in decline in property. And now with the restrictions and the foreign investors fleeing Australia, like a hunter entering the woods, and all the animal just running. You know, that's what's happening right now in Australia. And so Kevin Thompson says, "Hey Mike, housing is doing food. How much are you?" I'm not sure what he means. How far do you guys think prices are going to come down? Okay. Well, they got to come down to respectable levels, right? Because when you start taking the two incomes, let's get a city worker. Let's get a city worker, someone from the city that's making $50,000-$60,000 a year, and then let's get the nurse making $50,000-$60,000 a year. The combined incomes, and we did this loan to value thing. We already did a TDS check on the channel here. I already did this for you guys, and right now with CIBC and TD and their stress tests, they could borrow up to $430,000 provided they put down $100,000. So that's all they could borrow with their income. So unless people start making an extra $200,000 a year per person, then they can start affording houses at what the price they're at. People can't afford them right now, and banks will not take the risk and lend them that money they don't have. You know what I'm saying? Canadian saying the average household income is 50 large. That's net. Yeah, I believe it's net because that's about 80,000 gross. Government takes most of it. You're a partner. You're a silent partner. So New Zealand in a lot of trouble right now. People are borrowing against their loan to value. Australia in a lot of troubles right now. Higher rates, just a question of time. So like I said, Australia has ways to actually get out of these higher rates. Here's the curbs. There's the first RBA cut. So here's the cut. You see what happened here, guys? And then everything started, curbs placed on interest-only loans. Oh, interest-only loans. I'm not going to get back into that. I'm not going to go back into interest-only loans because I'm not going to beat the crap out of this microphone. I'm not fighting over that right now. We're just going to talk about this. So this is a long article, guys. This is a really good one for me to do just one article only on. But how Australia's banks became the world's biggest property addicts. Australia is leading the race right now, followed by Canada. And 120% of GDP. Holy smokes. So you know what this means, guys? That Australia's really, on paper, it's a rich country on paper is what it means. Luis Rojas is saying, hi, Mike. Cheers from Perth, Australia. Fourth city in the country. Yeah, I was talking about Perth earlier with their mining decline. We have been experiencing the household decline for more than 3 years. The city heavily based on mining and gas. Yeah, see, look, Luis, I know what's go back to the beginning of this video and you'll see how I was talking about the mining collapse in Perth and the mining basically feeding China's consumer debt. I mean, consumer stuff, like stuff that China needs. So, and raw materials, and then that just went down in the pits. You get it? Pit, open pit mining. Never mind, I'm not funny. But, so, the average house is around 1 million, says Kevin Thompson. It's not going down, guys. Every Western country is debt rich. Yeah, that's correct. Kevin Thompson said you just need to start making more money. And then Canadian says the U.S. is more debt rich than anywhere else, and Japan too. But here's the thing, but the average home benchmark price is still around 210,000, right? You take the whole benchmark price across the U.S., it's anywhere from 210 to 300, let's say. 300 is pretty high, because you can still pick up decent homes in South Carolina. Okay, you don't like South Carolina? You could go to Georgia, Atlanta. You can still pick up something decent for under 160,000 outside of Atlanta or south of Atlanta. You go to Macon, you could pick up a house for 225, a really nice house. You know what I'm saying? The reason why I always bring up the South is because I know the South well, because I've lived in the South. Okay. Again, what's happening in the UK? Highly indebted households increase after bank loosens lending. Bank of England. What did Bank of England do this time, guys? They're allowing for banks to loosen lending. Bank of England. So banks have loosened lending to help stimulate their economy. So they're going backwards because right now houses in England, prices in England have been dropping for the last 18, 19 months, and then they went up just a little bit last month, and they're going crazy, and it's gonna go back down even more. Okay, Perth medium house price $520. It's got to go down. $260. Go ahead and laugh at me. The average person, what they make in Perth, the average house at what rates should be at on a normal housing market, or a normal economy should be at 5.5 to 6.5%. because people like to make money off their money in their bank account and not get negative interest rates. So, Walking Journey says, list of housing crisis: California, New York, Washington, San Francisco, Denver, Los Angeles, San Diego. Why do they all have all in common? Liberal Democrat strongholds. That's very true, Walking Journey. Richard Mean Lee says, Melbourne apartments have dropped 20% since 2013. My neighborhood bought for $550 and now cannot sell for $450 for a year now. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard, for telling us in black and white, a condo owner. And I'm going to reread this for you guys in the English language, because I hope I'm broadcasting to people living in the English-speaking language. Melbourne apartments have dropped nearly 20 points since 2013. My neighborhood bought for $550 large and still cannot sell for $450 a year now. I know Melbourne's been kind of on the tapering edge right now because everyone left Sydney. Hobart's up there too. Hobart's going crazy right now because people are snatching up houses for under 200, 220,000. Because Hobart's Tasmania, for those of you that don't know, people are moving there and starting their lives out there, and they're moving, and a lot of people are moving west. Okay, a lot of people moving west to middle Australia. And then Richard Lee says, Mike, and he pays $5,500 a year in strata for that $550. Wow, so much strata fees. Wow, so much strata fees. Holy smokes. Metal Gear Mark III says, I hope the U.S. West Coast price comes down. The West Coast pricing will come down in the West Coast. It's going to be pretty hard. But it won't be as hard as 2008, 2007. Because the U.S. has learned its lesson the first time in 2008. So they're kind of backing out, taking money out of the markets, and kind of raising interest rates slowly, creating that buffer. So if there is a crash in the United States, it won't be as hard because they created that little buffer of rates going up. I think they're at 6 rate hikes now. So Vancouver Real Estate says, guys, buy your home. Don't listen to this stuff. I'm out. C'est la vie, buddy. Because the red states like Texas are empty and flat with a lot of land, liberal states like Washington, California, and New York are more crowded with less space available. Donald G, check out the Meet Kevin video. He says us California markets is going down. Well, there's nowhere for else to go, you know? So, anyways, Walking Journey, you can keep Vancouver Real Estate there. You don't have to delete his message. Leave him up there. Leave him up there. So what's happening now in the UK? They loosen lending requirements to lend more money out to people that don't have the money. So, they don't have the money, let's give them more money. What are you doing? They can't pay back the money they have already. They can't pay back the money they have already. Mortgage debt in Britain stands at £1.4 trillion, making 75% of total UK household debt at the end of 2017, the FPC said its financial stability report, which analyzes risk to the UK economy. Bank risk appetites for mortgage lending has increased in recent years, which, with a higher loan-to-value income multiple of difference prices between higher lower to loan-to-value and mortgages falling, the FPC said. Guys. Okay, you know, in the UK, there was a lot of shadow banks and a lot of Mickey Mouse-ness. Okay? Let me tell you about the Mickey Mouse-ness. They were giving, in the UK, a lot of banks were giving 110% loan-to-value on some of the homes. Oh, repay some debt back, buy a first auto. And a lot of people bought into this crap. Now, Bank of England is reversing everything, and they're loosening lending requirements What? Are they on crack or something? They're loosening lending requirements so they could stimulate the economy more and give people more money that they can't afford to pay back in the first place. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're not really getting out of debt. See, Kevin Thompson has a very smart idea. He borrows against his house and he's getting a 10% return. Watch this, guys. Mortgages, auto loans, and credit card. How the poor are fueling the booming U.S. economy. Yep. It's the working poor. With borrowing costs rising, effects tax cuts to wear off, a shock could push most vulnerable over the edge and take recovery with them. Oh, man. Philadelphia. Pennsylvania, baby. I haven't been to Philly in so long. Oh, I gotta go back to these cities. Pittsburgh. Miss Pennsylvania. Okay, Kevin Thompson. He gets 10% return. Anon. Been just thinking. It's gonna be hard raising rates once you're lower close to 0%. It's gonna hurt raising them, but debt's gonna grow. Kevin Thompson. Why is everyone here so pissed about housing? I can with zero down. Okay, guys. So let's just go this back here really quick. This part right here. So Australia hasn't had. So there's this is a quick recap on Australia. There's their GDP. There's what the banks have. So it's a paper economy, paper wealth. It's a fake economy. It's technically it'd be a poor country if they had to dissolve all that debt or resolve that debt. If they had to come to terms to pay it. So there's the rate hikes right now for Australia, and payments could double. So I wanted to finish that off properly. And then UK households increase after debt banks loosen lending. So this is going to be the powder cake right here. Loosening lending. Guys, I'm scared of this. This article was from last month, and I've been trying to find household debt rates in England. I can't find anything that makes any sense that's not real estate driven. And then let's go here. Back to Philadelphia, PA, sorry. By almost every measure, the U.S. economy is booming, but a look behind the headlines of roaring job growth and consumer spending reveals how the boom continues in a large part of the poorer half of Americans, fleecing their savings and piling up debt. So again, paper wealth, it's not real. A Reuters analysis, U.S. household data shows that the bottom 60% of income earners have accounted for most of the rise in spending over the past 2 years. Even their finances worsened, a break in the decades-old trend where the top 40% had primarily fueled the consumption growth. With borrowing costs on the rise, inflation picking up, and the effects of President Donald Trump's tax cuts set to wear off, a negative shock, a further rise in gasoline price, or a jump in the cost of goods due to tariffs could push those most vulnerable over the edge, some economists warn. That in turn could threaten, and the second longest U.S. expansion given to consumption makes up 70% of U.S. economy's output. To be sure, the housing market is far from the dangerous leverage reached in 2007 before the crash. That's what I said earlier, guys. It is. With unemployment nearly its lowest since 2000 and job openings at record highs, people may also choose to work even more hours or take extra jobs rather than cut back on spending if the money gets tight. In fact, growing majority of Americans say that they are comfortable financially, according to the Federal Reserve's report and the economic well-being of the U.S. households published in May and based on a 2017 survey. Yet, by filtering data on household finances and wages by income brackets, and Reuters analysis reveals growing financial stress among lower income households, even as their contribution to consumption and the broad economy grows. The data shows that the rise in median expenditures has outpaced before tax income by the lower 40% of earners in the 5 years to mid-2017, while the upper half has increased the financial cushion, deepening income disparities. So Chia is saying I'd rather keep my 200K cash. Yeah, maybe invest in some gold. I think gold might rally a bit. Yeah, Federal Reserve in quotations. That's right. Federal Reserve always says them. And then they are going down to the lowest bracket. So let's keep going here. Mortgages. Then let's go here. U.S. household debt approaches new high. Consumer debt is approaching the newest high, with the current household debt set at $1 trillion above the peak of level of 2008 by the end of June 2018, according to the study. Lending Tree. Don't go to Lending Tree, guys. In the second quarter, consumed debt approached $15.7 trillion compared to $14.7 trillion a decade ago, the study found. Unlike the last high in 2008, this time around, mortgages make up lesser share of total household debt between, though comprised of the largest amount of debt as measured by the percentage of disposable income. Outstanding mortgages comprise less liability, and the Lending Tree study noted. Again, could financial plain packaging break Australia's debt addiction? Australia is in so much debt addiction. The household debt is in so much problems right now. Household debt levels in Australia is atrocious. People have no idea how things are getting so bad down there. Guys, watch some of my older stuff, my older trends in the housing market, how we were talking about this stuff 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So, I can't read that. It says, I looked today and Vancouver has nothing for sale. No one's going to sell. Well, you see, a lot of people need to understand something. A lot of people don't want to sell for less than what they bought for, right? So if rates go up, they're going to have to pay more than what they signed for. Don't forget that. You're going to pay more for what you signed for once rates go up, and you got to renew your mortgage. And Walkie Journey saying, become a conservative and tell all your neighbors to be conservative and watch the house prices drop like a rock. And then someone saying, no, wrong mic. Of course I'm wrong. I can't even read. We are bombarded with emotive ads selling debt through dreams of home ownership, new cars, tropical holidays, and financial freedom, or even more dangerous, through fears of missing out while others get ahead using debt. Again, right here, guys. We are bombarded by emotive ads selling debt through dreams of home ownership, new cars, tropical holidays, and financial freedom, or even more dangerous, through fears of missing out while others get ahead using debt. You're getting ahead using someone else's money. So someone in the comment section is saying they want to sell, they won't sell because prices aren't going up. That's fine. But when they have to renew their mortgages, especially those shady mortgages or whatever they have to pay more on their mortgage payments. Regardless, you buy for one price at a good rate. Now you got it on that dotted line. Now you're going to be paying more for what you bought, maybe triple the price because rates are going up. Go back to this article here. Right here, Australia, they still haven't had a rate increase. Once they get a rate increase, they could almost double their. So they buy something for $1 million, they got to pay back $2 million in the end of the rate hikes. And I've been talking about this. We've been talking about this for years. So, haha, Mike, don't be harsh on yourself. So Kevin Thompson says there was an open house on Monday. Prices are going up, up, up. So there's my buddy here in California saying there's thousands of houses for sale in Cali, many on auction. WSW says debt isn't money, it's not income, it's slavery. Money is created through debt. So when you go to the bank, okay, if everybody paid off their debt, there won't be no money anywhere. So basically, if I have $1,000 right now in front of me, somewhere someone owes $1,000. If I have this room full of money, and let's say there's $2 million in this room, someone somewhere owes $2 million because money is created through debt. Get it? It's like musical chairs. So if everyone was to pay down their debts, all the paper money would just disappear. It won't exist, right? Or most money would disappear, right? Kyle's saying if you're not selling your property, taxes still increase. You still pay more. Of course, Kyle's right. 1,000,000%. You're still going to pay more. So if you want to hold because prices are going up, hey, congratulations. But when you got to sign on that dotted line and renew your mortgage, and it's going to be going up $400 to $600 a month, Merry Christmas. You're paying out of pocket to keep that damn place afloat. So Kevin Thompson said, Mike, the HELOC mortgage is the best thing that has ever happened to me. So Buddy took out a second mortgages. And I'm saying buying houses is becoming like buying a car. As soon as you complete your purchase, the value has already gone down. No takebacks. Haha. The Canadian saying, true. If everyone paid their debt, then we would be as rich as the sub-Saharan African countries. Yes, we'd be rich as in Argentina. Before the federal banks went into Argentina, before the federal banks got into Portugal, it was the same thing. You know, went into our colonies, destabilized all our countries. Why? To put banks there, because the Salazarian regime in Portugal refused to deal with the U.S. and refused to sign with the World Bank, and that's why the Portuguese were heavily sanctioned. Because they refused to get into the banking system, the banking cartels, right? And look where it's got Portugal today, right? True. So, G says, true, except if your house was plumbing issues, you're screwed. Well, it's true. If you buy a house with issues, you're up the creek without a paddle. Same wealth, they just don't have debt. Donald G saying, nothing selling in Kelowna. Prices already noticeably cheaper than... Yes! Guys, I forgot to tell you guys. Kelowna, like east of me, I don't know, an hour east of me. Southeast of me, sorry. Houses are already having a really hard time moving. Some of them 6 to 8 months on the market. And that's what's happening right now there. And then Kevin Thompson says there's different kinds of debts. Kevin Thompson needs to come on the show and explain to us how he's making 10% on his second mortgage. He took a second mortgage out, and he's been making 10% on it. So he's got to come on the show and teach us a few tricks, you know what I'm saying? Debt with interest is highway robbery, says Chi, for sure. Kevin Thompson says business debt is different than people borrowing to put down on housing casino. That's true. And Canadian says, that's why I respect Portugal. Oh, yeah, Portugal had more sanctions than Iran had today. Oh, yeah, Portugal was pushed to the brink of poverty, and people were starving because of the sanctions that were put on. And then the U.S. threatened war to go against Salazar in Portugal because they wanted to build a base on one of the Portuguese Azore Islands on Terceira. Look it up. It's called Terceira Island, Tercia. Look that up. How the U.S. threatened to go to war with Portugal because they refused to give up land for the U.S. to build a military base there. There's a lot. Oh, I could talk about this for hours, guys. I could talk on the Portuguese side of things on how much we've lost because of the world banking system. And you always hear about the U.S., you always hear about the Federal Reserve, you always hear about how Iran, you always hear about all these countries, right? You never ever hear too much about Portugal, how they ruled a good majority of the world, why it's the fourth or fifth biggest speaking language in the world. You don't hear too much about their history because they had it right. Their trading posts made all the East Indian Trading Company envious of them. The Portuguese had 300-year longer presence than anyone else in Asia. The Portuguese brought gunpowder to Japan from China. The Portuguese brought pretty much Christianity to the whole world. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I'm going to get back to what I was talking about here. Sorry, guys. Red Pill Crypto Shark says Portugal was a major world superpower. Yeah, for like almost 390 years, right? Because they did it right. They traded. The Portuguese were denounced and called criminals because they refused to trade opium on their trade routes. And the reason why the English had to take the Northern Passage was because the Portuguese wouldn't let them go past the Azores. Once they went south of the Azores, why do you think the English never colonized nothing in South America or Central America? Oh yeah, you got English Guyana, but the Portuguese gave English Guyana to England and French Guyana to France to give them a piece of South America. But the official language in South America is Portuguese. 208 million people speak Portuguese in South America. They don't tell you that stuff. Anyways. And then, I love to know more about Portugal, says Metal Gear. Oh, man. Dylan Lopez, sorry, brother. You know we're friends, says hey, hey, hey. And then Crypto Shark says, Portugal was a great superpower. Absolutely, thank you. Then Luis Rojas says, Australia was named for Portuguese discovered years before way before the Portuguese mapped out Australia when they were colonizing parts of Japan and Timor, north of Australia, Timor-Leste. They speak Portuguese there. And then let's keep going here, guys. We're going way off topic. Okay, so we went over this, that Bank of England is actually lending. Banks are loosening lending practices to stimulate the economy so people could borrow more. And then people are borrowing more that can't afford to pay back the original loans. So, hey, let's borrow more so we can pay back more. Guys, I don't know if I'm just delusional or this is like a normal thing. But, again, mortgage, auto loans, credit in the United States, booming U.S. economy. The poor is booming the U.S. economy. And then, could financial plain packaging break Australia's... Okay, I'm going to reread this one more time. We are bombarded with emotive ads selling debt through dreams of home ownership, new cars, tropical holidays, and financial freedom. Or, even more dangerous, through fears of missing out while others get ahead using debt. Others get ahead using debt. You never get ahead using debt unless you're a country. The typical human being, soul, meat and bone, you never get ahead using debt. It's very hard. A country gets ahead using debt. They do. Not in the trillions, but I mean, properly proportioning their debt. It's actually good for a country to be in some debt. Some debt. Not this massive bubbles that we have right now. So, Kevin Thompson said, I'll give you $25K cash back if you buy one of my properties. Not interested. Red Pill, Crypto Shark questioned history and learned. It provides great perspective to world events right now. The history is important because obviously everything is doomed to repeat itself regardless. And why? Because we don't learn. We didn't learn what happened in 2007, 2008. And other countries that could have prevented all this crap from happening didn't. They sold themselves out to the highest bidders. And they're saying, hey, you know what? Who's got money? Come in and buy us out. Our GDP is lacking. We're not exporting anymore. Our mining's in the pits. We're not, oil's down. How can we get this thing back up? Hey, come in and buy us out. That's the worst thing you could do. I love those parties. I love those parties people used to go to where... Remember the parties 2-3 years ago before this whole thing starts to hit the poop? You remember? Sitting at the party and everyone saying, hey man, how come you didn't buy? We all bought. I'm buying my third house this week, man. Yeah. So now you go to the party. No one wants to go to the party because no one wants to talk about how much they're losing on their properties right now. Trevor is saying, if you are so sure the prices will go up forever, Kevin, why are you offering cash to someone to buy your property? Yeah, Kevin. And Canadian said China's taking advantage of countries that are unable to pay their debt. Yeah, that's the use, rinse, wash, repeat process. Basically, Germany's been doing it in Africa for years. Germany would lend out money to Africa. And they're like trillions of euros in debt, but they would still lend money to African countries, and then they won't be able to pay it back. And what's happening right now in Mozambique, and I'm really working with a lot of their Mozambique's finance minister working to try and solve this problem right now. And my documentary that I made basically answered every question that they had for me. And that's the documentary that was submitted to the African Film Festival. Mozambique, where's the richness going? One of the richest countries in the world, be it resources, mineral, natural gas, and they're the poorest people, you know. Kevin Thompson saying, I've already fixed this place up, and it's worth 3 times what I paid. Dylan Lopez then says, then you should be able to sell it without giving incentives. Then Luis Rojas says, at Canadian you are correct. Look at Venezuela, Philippines, Vietnam, some countries in Africa. That's true. And then Dylan Lopez says, earn a return on all the effort and money you put in. That's true. And then somebody says, good that you own, Kevin. And then Canadian says, Luis Rojas, yep. And then Red Pill Crypto Shark says, hey, how's the Trump tariffs hurting your local economies? And then Kevin Thompson says, it gets a lot of views in the incentive. So Trump tariffs are going to, they're kicking in, right? And this is going to be Canada's chance to become Cuba. To actually start producing their own Coca-Cola and call it Moto-Cola. Start producing their own Pepsi and call it Pepsin. Open their own... We bought out all our Toys R Us's, so none of a majority of Toys R Us's in Canada are still open. It's owned by a Canadian company now. So there's a lot going on in Canada. I think Canada needs to pull its socks up and look sharp. So does Australia. I think Canada needs to become like Cuba. You know, start manufacturing their own automobiles and selling them to their locals and not importing cars anymore from America. Canada needs to start getting more clothing lines out there. Canada needs to start, you know, producing more bikes, mountain bikes. The mountain bike scene is enormous here. Canada needs to start producing more electric cars. Canada just needs to create a good 1.2 million good-paying private sector jobs. And I think Canada's woes with the U.S. will start disappearing. Kevin Thompson saying, don't waste any more time, guys. No, it's don't. Don't waste any more time, guys. Canadian Cringe. Oh, my man, Canadian Cringe in the house. Trudeau is doing more damage to our economy than Trump ever could. And then Kevin Thompson says, bye tomorrow. WSW says, it's Canada's chance to cut taxes and compete. Oh, definitely. Maybe have more of attractive dollar, maybe, hopefully, for exporting. And Dylan Lopez says, yeah, would be nice to see us do something for ourselves. Trust me, if we became like a Cuba, I spent, I don't know, almost 6 months in Cuba till I was deported. But it was really good because I saw how their infrastructure worked. I saw how their, like, people were happy. People understood. People, you know, a lot of the people at the houses I went to tons of people's homes to have roasted pork and fresh fruit. And oh, it was just fantastic. I had such a good time in Cuba. You know what I'm saying? And then Red Pill Crypto Shark said, Trump has a point when it comes to China. Good on Trump for looking after his people. Yes, let's compete. Yeah, you know what? Dylan says, yeah, use more wood products here, not export the raw. Exactly. Make our own prices go up for local craftsmen. Exactly. You know what? Buy a wooden spoon that you could use as a ladle that's going to last you your lifetime instead of buying something from Walmart that's going to last you 6 months. Whatever happened to quality? Buying something for life. You know what I'm saying? Someone says, use more wood products. Someone says, sorry, Mike, we don't want to be Cuba at all. I'm not saying to become Cuba. I'm saying to become how Cuba was infrastructurally sound and independent from the rest of the world. And everyone lived their lives. Everyone had their homes. Cuba is one of the countries with less amount of debt structure. Like people, I'm saying. People don't carry debt in Cuba. You know what I'm saying? So, could they be free? Are we in a delusionalized state that we're in so much debt, are we free? Or in Cuba, where it's different, but no one carries debt. So who's free? You know what I'm saying? Oh, I understand that Cuba is a communist country and average rate is $25 per... I'm talking about the independence they have when they were cut off from the rest of the world for so many years. And they actually made the best of it. That's what Canada needs to start doing. Make the best. So Kevin Thompson's telling everyone to get off the sidelines. Start buying. So Kevin Thompson's hoping that everyone buys in so that his property could taper or plateau or maybe continue going up. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what else Better Dwelling has here in store for us. Every major Canadian city market west of Ottawa is cooling down. I already read that. This week, top stories: Canadians are looking for more foreign money for mortgages as they're paying the highest rates in over 5 years. I read that one already. Canadians are borrowing at the highest mortgage rate in over 5 years. I read that one already. Canadian real estate sales drop over 11%. BC home to biggest declines. I already read that. Canada's considering a risky move to fund mortgages with foreign capital. I read that. Canadian real estate prices make the smallest advance since 2009. I read that. Toronto condo prices hitting new high as inventory rate rises back to 2016 levels. So inventory is climbing. This week's top stories: Canadian real estate prices growth continues to decelerate, going down, and Canadians are holding onto less cash. So when your loan to value goes down, this is right here, and basically you have less paper wealth. And Crypto Shark, walking journey, you could build a good life for your family in New Zealand. Then someone says, Big Bluster says routers is pronounced Reuters. Okay. I know I can't read, guys. I got a grade 6 reading level. And Crypto Shark WSW says Cuba has no debt because you couldn't borrow money. There is a philosophical argument to live simply and enjoy life. Some truth to that. That's what I'm trying to say, guys. I'm not trying to say go communist. I'm trying to say let's do it as Canada. Let's pull up our socks. Let's look sharp. Let's patent the hatches because we got a storm coming. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Metal Gear is saying, I'd love to live in New Zealand, but their immigration process is rough. That's true. Kevin Thompson says, this show has been wrong for 3 straight years. It's actually been 7 years, but that's okay. Then Kenny the Farmer says, you're doing great, Mike. Metal Gear Mark 3 says, Bitcoin is going great. Red Pill Crypto Shark is saying, walking journey, we are as a growing country. We need migrants. And you come from the same values system country. Then Walking Journey says, Mike, you should cover Agenda 21. 2030 has a lot to do with the housing crisis. You know, if I cover Agenda 21 on my channel, I'll probably get my channel flagged down. I cannot cover Agenda 21, guys, unless I cover it in some cryptic language that only very few people could understand. Yeah. Then Frank I says, you're all wrong. Even with a tiny condo, you could become a multi-millionaire in Canada. It is the hottest real estate market in the world, and prices will continue to the moon. Donald G buys gold. There you go, someone with some sense. Donald G, buy gold. Dylan Lopez says, Kevin obvious is a troll obvious. Then Kevin Thompson says, I love this show, Mike. And then, so much for free speech on YouTube. Oh no, you see, guys, you need to understand something. There was someone talking when I went to a press conference in Mozambique. This was a few years back. This is like about 8 years ago. Portuguese Africa. And what the guy said made a lot of sense on stage. He said that you're going to see the downfall of YouTube. And YouTube will see a decline because YouTube is not considered freedom of speech because it doesn't follow a country's guideline. YouTube is a private entity. YouTube does not allow freedom of speech because they are not following a country's guidelines, right? So if YouTube moves to China, they could follow the policy of the Chinese, what they got going there, and follow those guidelines if they wanted to. You got to remember that YouTube is a private entity, guys. So free speech is not... That's why free speech is getting shut down on YouTube, because they could pick and choose what they want to push or what agendas they like to push, right? Metal Gear Mark III says, how so? Can I help? I'm not sure what he wants to help with. And then Kevin Thompson says, I see this lady bought her home for $400K and sold it for $1.1 million 5 years later. But the problem is she needs to buy back for $1.1 million. And that's what everybody's forgetting. Kevin Thompson says in Oakville. Red Bill Crypto Shark, is there anyone I could talk to about that, like a company? I'm not sure what company. Say it again. Tell us what company you want to talk about. And then someone says, it's becoming Netflix and Spotify, YouTube Premium, YouTube Music. Yeah, it is. Guys like me will cease to exist. Even I have a Portuguese channel here. It's been flagged and shut down. I had to restart my channel 3 times. And then finally, after I've been getting a video sent to the African Film Festival, they've been kind of less lenient on me. And then my fan page hit over 120,000 fans, most and all of Canadian politicians put together. Here's my Portuguese page, and what happened was I made it up to 1.7 million subs, and then they just shut my channel down. And this is this is the documentary that I made that has put me on the map. This one right here, it's in Portuguese, and look at what we had until we were destabilized and we lost everything. Let me see if I could go into that old video of what Portuguese Africa. There it is, right here. This is what it was before we got destabilized and we lost everything. My dad was living there. I was supposed to be born there, type of thing. My aunt's living there right now, and we had everything. We had no segregation. Whoever did the job better got the job. And they needed to destroy that. They needed to destabilize that. They needed to lend that country money. That's 1970, Lorenz Marx. So, someone's saying, company is bad choice of words. I need something like becoming a New Zealand citizen for dummies. Oh, I think there's a website called Live in New Zealand. liveinnewzealand.com. I think that's the website. Look at that. Look how beautiful it was. So my documentary shows the young people how it was before the destabilization. How everybody lived together and there was no hate. You know what I'm saying? But it's really sad. And then I go over the debt clock, and this is what really peed off a lot of people and basically got them to shut down my channel. This video was downloaded roughly, I think, close to 300,000, 400,000 times. And this is what put me on the map, was this documentary. And right now it only has a mere 55,000 views. And when I restarted my channels, I got a lot of people come back to watch my documentaries. And that's me on RT there. So, you know, I just wanted to kind of throw this out there for you guys. You know, there's a lot going on, guys. There's a lot of monkey business going on all over the world. And you know what? I kind of wish things were different. I kind of wish things were like the early 50s, you know. The boomer generation. Guys, fan my fan page if you haven't by now. There's my public figure. I am at 119,000 likes. That's really good for someone like a nobody like myself. If you You guys get out there, you know what I'm saying? Support me, you know? Yes, so, yeah, okay. We're getting into a very interesting, we're getting into an interesting topic here. Hi, Mike from Australia. Tim Burley. Tim, you want to scroll back to the beginning of the show from the beginning, buddy. It's a good show. Anon says, in Australia, they make it hard to get connected. You need government ID to watch them throttle the net and block peer-to-peer. So what needs to happen is, because the internet, like I said, I made a video discussing this, guys. I was talking about how we need to start setting up our own servers at home and start networking information between our own servers. That's the only way to router information, is by setting up our own servers and our own networks. And then basically it starts with 10 people doing it. One guy in Australia, then one guy networks with me through Australia from me here in Canada. Then Walking Journey sets up a network with him in Texas. And then someone else sets up a network, let's say in Portugal that I know. And then someone in Brazil. And then we start networking back and forth like this. That's the only way. We need to be, you know how people want to live off-grid with their homes? We have to create an off-grid internet service. That's what needs to happen. 700K. Okay, this Kevin Thompson keeps talking here. Anon said you'd save 60 to 100 PMs. Pings per minute, I think that means. Metal Gear, buying a house now isn't smart. The housing market is about to correct itself, aka crash. Thank you, Metal Gear. Kevin Thompson, 700K is cheap if you get in downtown. 700K at 5%. That's like 40 grand a year in finance charges. Who the hell wants to pay that? Are you crazy? Anyways, LOL, True Walking Journey, and then WSW, decriminalized internet is what you're talking about. It could be correct a bit. Arnold says, per month cost of internet is overpriced. Metal Gear, Kevin, I think $20 to $40. Correction. That's not a little. It is crashing. Look at the price discounts and sales. Yes, price discount sales everywhere. Slashing prices everywhere. Let's look at price discount housing. Guys, don't forget to join me tomorrow with Trends in the Housing. Wow, there's a bug on my table. Trends in the housing market. I'm going to have Mario DeCettis on the show tomorrow night. He's going to be talking about what's happening in the housing market in Ontario. Price drop, crashes pre-construction home buyers. That's way in February. Top 10 mistakes new home buyers make. Okay, let's see if there's something in the news. I mean, God forbid. Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing here. Can I say something, guys? Do you know why we can't find anything on price discounts on homes? Do you know why, guys? It's because it's happening. Yeah. So discounts. So there's lots of internet hikes, prices going up in internets. Oh, here's one here for the Global Market. Vancouver detached home market hits a rough patch. Property price drop. Oh, there's property price drops everywhere in the interior and in the interior, guys. Ooh! 1 hour ago, Manhattan is now a buyer's market at all price points. Units in Manhattan are priced below $1 million are rising. Inventory jumped more than 25% in June from a year earlier. All units pile up, prices have dropped, and could leave options for buyers across the board. There you go. So people living in Manhattan and different parts of the, you know what I'm saying, right? Have a chance to you know, live. So price discounts are roaring as units pile up. There you go. Nationwide sales. And that's Manhattan, people. Kevin Thompson saying he's buying Bitcoin this week. God bless you. And Dylan Lopez is saying Steve Saretsky, many other realtors listening to their videos now, the tone, their expectation setting. And from the New Zealand here, I don't think people have realized the housing market has already topped out here. Oh, I have. NOC, if you want to go on to the beginning of the show, I discuss here in New Zealand here, what's happening in New Zealand here. Where'd it go? Oh, I think I closed the article. I discuss what's happening in New Zealand here. So in the article that I read here for you guys. So I did cover New Zealand in this because it's really risky how they're borrowing. Again, here it is. From New Zealand and how they're borrowing. I gave a good speech on New Zealand, so you want to go back to the beginning of the show and watch it. Don't be sheep, guys. So Kevin Thompson saying, basically everyone's saying, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I can't, prices are going to keep going up. There's only one way prices will go up, and it's this way. And I've been bringing this up every 5 shows. This is a crucial article from 2016. Canada wants more Chinese workers, students, and tourists. They're pushing to 500,000 a year. Fast-tracking immigration. Here it is, 500,000 per year. Canada's competing for wealthy investors. Canada's competing for investors to come in and spend more money. So the only way Canada could prop up its housing market is by getting in more wealthy Chinese. And that's what they're doing here, according to CBC News. So this is what's happening here. And then it ties into the Douglas Todd article. Right here. So this is a very, very, very important article. Douglas Todd, Aboriginals and Whites leaving Metro Vancouver. So Canada fights to get more immigration and the Canadian proper leaves to move into the thing. So this is from 2016. 9,345 whites and 460 Indigenous people left Metro Vancouver for other parts of the province. So that's what's happening. So we're playing musical chairs. But the problem is, the de facto is, the people coming in from China, the capital flows from China, is making it hard for people to bring money out. This is what's happening, guys. So I think what happens is with this, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're shooting themselves in the foot when you're competing for wealthy investors to come into the country, because then the people that actually pay the taxes and actually work in those cities and pay the property tax and income tax and taxes from their wages that support those cities are leaving. But the problem is, you're going to get towns like my town, Merritt, and other little towns are going to have to send money back to Vancouver in the next 5 to 10 years to help keep their infrastructure propped, because there's not enough taxes coming out of people's wages there anymore to keep those cities afloat. Social justice warrior climate, and I'm just reading articles. So Canada wants more Chinese workers, students, and tourists, say immigration. That's what it says right there. I'm not making it up. I'm taking this, you know what I'm saying? So this is not social justice warrior crap. This is what's happening. This is the recourse. Everyone's leaving. And now my taxes here in America might have to partition a bit of our taxes in 5 years to send to Vancouver, because it can't keep itself afloat, because all the people that actually, anyways. The banks buy Bitcoin, you can claim a loss, ha ha ha. The NOC says that the banks are currently restricting mortgages finance in Canada as they are in Australia. I think that will cause major problems in the... Yeah, that's a stress test. Mike, have you looked into real estate investing companies? I believe these types of businesses are allowing foreign buyers to avoid paying the taxes. Again, even if it's a rumor or people are avoid paying taxes, they're not investing into the infrastructure. Your North America seems a lot like the Kiwis. Kevin Thompson says, yes, save yourself on other incomes. Then Andrea says, the point of cryptos is to avoid taxes so we don't feel bad paying taxes to kill other people overseas. And then Metal Gear Solid, you could buy BTC, okay, cryptocurrencies. And then Mike, check out Brother Nathaniel channel. Yeah, I will, bud. But I just wanted to throw this out there. So there's the recourses are taking place right now. It's a risk board. You ever play Risk? The war game where you're rolling dice and you're moving guys around the board? This is exactly what's happening. But it's happening to our lives. They're playing with our lives now. They're playing with our futures. They're playing with our futures of getting married. They're playing with our futures of having children. They're playing with our futures of turning down a potential great job offer because you can't afford the housing. They're playing with all our futures, and this chessboard or risk board is running out of options now. Wow, comment section is roaring right now. This is what's happening, guys. I don't know what to tell you guys. I just been trying to tell you guys for the longest time. You know, I go into Zillow once in a while, you know what I'm saying? Just to check out different places and places to look at and places to invest. See, I lived in this area. You know, I live in this area, and I could show you areas in this area that are just absolutely gorgeous. You know, buy a nice house, 3.7. Look at the land. I mean, everyone makes fun of me. Oh yeah, Mike, you know what? You know, Florida's a dump and stuff. No, I spent some good time there, and I know, you know, there's bad and good areas everywhere you go, right? So it's just sad, you know. Homestead's really nice. Florida City's really nice. I had a great time down in, you know, down in these areas here. Look, 50 grand, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, 880 square feet. See, this is a good area, close to jobs, close to everything. This is what places like this should be going for. You know what I'm saying? They should be going for this much. Like, you know, 165, 4 bedroom, 2 bath. New construction, $299, 5 bedrooms, 3 bath. You know, 157, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. You know, 156. This is what homes should be worth. You know, I don't know what to tell you guys. You know. Metal Gear says, I don't think Mike is against. I don't think Mike is against crypto. He just doesn't. I understand how the blockchain works. I understand. Like, metaphorically speaking, it's like a snake with 500 heads, and you can't destroy the blockchain unless you destroy every piece of technology on the planet, because the blockchain will exist forever. And yeah, blockchain is the hardest way to the hardest thing to hack into. You can't hack into it. And if you die and you have bitcoins on your phone, for example, or you have 20 bitcoins and you die and no one knows the password, those 20 bitcoins are gone forever. No one can ever get them back. I understand how it works. I've been watching Chris at AMTV, Alternative Media Television, and that's all he talks about is cryptos. And like, I don't know what to tell you guys. I really don't know what to tell you guys. Okay, everyone makes fun of me about Florida and it's a dump and stuff. Okay, fine. You know, I've been to Clearwater and it's really nice. You know, over here, 315. I mean, there's your backyard. I mean, okay, fine. Okay, that's not good. Okay, there's 30 photos of it. I don't know if they're hiding anything here. Okay, fine. That's not good enough. Fine. Oh, you're comparing. You can't compare Sydney that. You got to compare Sydney to New York. No, I compare Sydney more to like Miami, more to that kind of, you know. Okay, oh, well, yeah, no one wants to live there. Okay, you want to be more, then go to Georgia. Go to Salem, Georgia. I don't know. Look at all the places here. Look, 289. It's called Delusional Mike. I should have a show called Delusional Mike. Okay, you don't like that? Then move to Louisiana. Louisiana's nice. I've driven through there many times. Look, it's a nice starter home. $59,256 a month. 900 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath. But you're like, oh, there's no jobs. Dude, it's 59 grand. Go work part-time at the Home Depot and you're free. Jesus Christ, $256 a month. Oh, but I want to make 100 grand. Yeah, so you can pay you make 100 grand to pay back 110,000 a year. That's like ludicrous. Then you can move to Walking Journey country here. Here's there right here. Look, Temple, Texas. Buy a nice house in Temple. 190, 3 bedroom. You don't like Temple? Then move to Del Rio. 159. Hey, you don't like that? Move to, I don't want to go to the expensive states that have been taken over by Californians. Move to South Dakota, I don't know. Look, 369. You want something more upbeat? Here you go, South Dakota. 369. I mean, Delusional Mike. That's what houses are supposed to be worth. What is that per month? $1,400 a month. I mean, look at what you get for $1,400 a month. But then you get into places like Seattle. Watch this, guys. Watch this. Look how many homes are in the market in Seattle. Holy smokes. Get into, where are you, Seattle? I just saw Seattle. Wow, I can't see it here. Hold on, let me zoom right out. Man, I can't see it. Oh, there it is. I see it. There we go. There we go. 12 million bucks. 675 for that, because that's been taken over now. 2.8 million bucks. $11,000 a month mortgage. I don't know. I don't know. The whole West Coast is like this, guys. You go from the top of the West Coast here. We're gonna do a Zillow show soon. You go to LA County here. $800,000. Same house that we saw in Texas. 100 and 200, 150 grand. You know what I'm saying? So Red Pill's saying to go south. Yeah, it's to go south. That's the only way to make ends meet. I heard Nebraska's really nice too. Look, 269, 294. Look what you get for 635. Look at that thing. Look at that. That's a house and a half. But 635. But you're getting your bang for your buck. You still, oh, I can't afford that, Mike. Okay, look at this one for 450 in Nebraska. Look at that. That's a beautiful house. Beautiful country type home. Just gorgeous. Mortgage $1,800 a month. You know. Anyways, guys, I'm getting tired. Let's look at one more. Look at this. Beautiful starter home. 135. Beautiful home to get started. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Use 1 bedroom as an office until you have more kids. 135. $557 a month for a home in Nebraska. Get you off the ground. To get off the ground in Australia, in some major cities, you got to spend at least $800,000, $700,000, ridiculously. You know, same thing with Vancouver. A house like this in Vancouver is $2 million bucks, and I'm being very conservative with that. Anyways, guys, I want to go to sleep. I'll see you guys tomorrow for trends in the housing market. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow night. We're going to be streaming, and we're going to be going through the comments and stuff. I want to do open lines again, but I get a lot of people crank calling the show and ruining it for everybody else. So it gets really hard to do open lines. So we'll figure something out. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good night. I've been talking for an hour and a half. Holy crap. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a good night. Kevin Thompson, what time? It's going to be, I'm going to try push for 6:30 Pacific time. So it'll be 9:30 LA County, 9:30 Miami time. So Miami time, 9:30. And I think it's going to be like 2 p.m. No, 9:30, then it'll be like 4 in the morning in the UK, and then it's going to be like 2 p.m. in Australia, and then 3 p.m. in New Zealand, I think. I don't know. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for the feedback in the comment section. It means a lot to me, guys. And if you just tuned in, go to the back to the beginning of the show. It's worth watching.